And we're on.
Hey, late night from Willowdale. We don't really do videos 1 week in a row, but so much to talk about, like Trump's crazy visit to Europe, of course the conservative leadership. But let's do it in 4 or 5 minutes. Uh, let's talk about Trump first. What a crazy visit! I was surprised. And there has been some comment in some of the U.S. media, but not a lot, about the visit to Saudi Arabia and how he embraced, and how the Saudis embraced him and he embraced them, and they signed this huge deal. And then of course we had the Manchester events, a couple of days later in Manchester, and some have made the link, but a lot haven't. But the Saudis are responsible for a lot of this terrorism that goes on in the world today. There was a Fareed Zakaria show on CNN today. They talked about it. Wahhabism and Salafi Islam. That's the foundation of ISIS, the Taliban, a lot of this stuff. It all comes out of Saudi Arabia. And nobody condemns Saudi Arabia. Trump praised them. They're the greatest, they're the greatest people. He went after Iran. Iran has not been responsible for any of the terrorism that goes on in the world. It's not responsible for Manchester. It's not responsible for Berlin or Nice or Paris or San Bernardino or Orlando. All this nuttiness that we see in the world today, this nutty religious extremism. I don't want to use the word Islamic extremism. I like the word is religious extremism. All roads lead to Saudi Arabia, a major American ally, a major benefactor of American. They don't get a lot of aid from the U.S., but they get a lot of weapons from the U.S., and they buy a lot of weapons from the U.S. It all leads to Saudi Arabia, but you still see in the U.S. media and even in the Canadian media that Iran is the official enemy. It's an official enemy. Once you're an official enemy, you can never shake it. Iran is not a perfect place. They still execute people. They're not a free place. But they had a relatively democratic election a little over a week ago, where a moderate, Hassan Rouhani, was reelected, trying to take Iran into a better place, and totally ignored by a good chunk of the world. And Trump was the Saudis and the Trumpian people were lecturing Iran while Trump was in Saudi Arabia, saying Iran needs to do more about human rights and this and that, and of course they're in the cradle of a religious extremism and repression. I mean, I probably said this in a video last week, but Wilbur Ross, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, said it all when he said, "I'm surprised that people weren't protesting. There were no placards." I was pleasantly surprised. Of course, what Wilbur Ross didn't realize is that if you protest in Saudi Arabia, you get arrested, probably decapitated, beheaded, or you get 5,000 lashes. This is a medieval theocracy. No country should have relations with this nasty place. But Trump heralds this, and a good chunk of the American conservative media says this was the greatest part of Trump's mission. I mean, it's so disgusting. Talk about fake news. Iran is a challenging place. They're not a beacon of human rights, but my God, compared to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states and a good chunk of the Middle East, they're not bad. And they're trying to open themselves up to the world. I don't know why. I think Trudeau should definitely take advantage of Iran's opening and the Iran Spring, and encourage the continuation of Iran's moderation. I'm not going to go on about it. We talked about this in the last video. So Trump went off to Europe, made a fool of himself, lectured NATO allies on not spending enough, talked about the cost of the new NATO headquarters in Brussels. It was so pathetic. Nobody wanted to talk to Trump. the European leaders didn't know what to make of him. He was kind of just like this bully that nobody really wanted to talk to. And then, of course, the famous scene where he elbowed the Prime Minister of Montenegro aside. Montenegro, by the way, is the smallest country in NATO and also the newest country in NATO. And they're a country that resisted Russian pressure to join NATO. And Trump just bullied him aside. Get out of my way. I'm Donald Trump, I'm the biggest crook on the planet Earth. And it was so funny. And what a disaster that turned out to be. Trump supporters love it when he lectured NATO. They love it. Trump supporters, as you know, elected a guy in Montana who beat up a journalist, and that, of course, increased his popularity because beating up journalists is a good thing in the Trump world. We're living in a bizarre place right now. Trump world is a bizarre place. I don't know where all these Russian investigations are going to go with Jared Kushner and back channels and all this stuff, and we don't know. I'm one of these people that say don't get too anti-Trump. Like, it doesn't work for you. Like, you don't know. Right now, there's a lot of smoke. There's not a lot of fire. So we don't know where all this stuff is going to go with the Russians. I think we do know, and we have to deal with the facts here. And the facts are important. The facts are that Russians did not want Hillary Clinton as president. They didn't like her. Partly that's due to misogyny. Russia is a very male-dominated culture. Partly they didn't like the fact that Hillary Clinton would be tough on Russia. And they didn't want her as president. They didn't think that Donald Trump would actually make it to the presidency, but they did everything in their power to make sure that Hillary would be
wounded.
Wounded. And if she had become president, they would have continued to try to wound her. So we know the Russians were up to no good. Those are the facts, and they are undisputed. Where the Trump collusion comes in, we don't know. It's all... We'll probably know in the next number of months. It seems to all be coming to a head. But what we do know from Trump's trip to Europe is that he's an ignorant buffoon. He likes flattery. That's why going to Saudi Arabia and being feted by this rogues gallery of thugs, murderers, dictators, and potentates, he loved it. Then going to Israel and being feted by Benjamin Netanyahu, who's another criminal, being investigated just like Donald Trump. And of course, basically a thug and a guy who has no credibility on the world stage. Everybody hates Benjamin Netanyahu. Because he has, he knows, he doesn't give he's a racist, basically. He doesn't give a damn about the Palestinians. He does not want peace. He doesn't want a two-state solution. He basically wants to annex the West Bank. Benjamin Netanyahu is a thug and a lowlife. And Obama knew it. Clinton knew it. They all knew it. Even George W. Bush knew it. But Trump embraced him, and he loved it. And it's all. But then, of course, he went to Europe, where he had to deal with serious people, and that all didn't work well. So we don't know where Trump is going to go. He's such a clown. I told Khalid he should have stayed in Sicily. I got to do my Trump impression. I got to do it.
Get in the zone.
I got to try to. Should have stayed in Sicily. I love The Godfather. One of the great movies. I'm kind of a Godfather myself. I like Count of Taormina. I told the NATO allies. I told them they're all a bunch of wimps and pansies. Europeans are wimps and pansies. I'm a tough guy. I beat up on the Prime Minister of Montenegro. I don't even know where that is. I have no clue. I just want to go back to Mar-a-Lago, where I'm comfortable. But maybe I should have stayed in Sicily, because you know what? I'm kind of a crook, and that's where a lot of crooks live. Anyways, I gotta go on and on and on. Anyway, he's back in Washington tonight. Didn't look too happy getting off the helicopter at the White House.
Oops.
Now let's go on to Canadian politics. Forget about Justin Bieber Trudeau. We'll talk about Justin Bieber Trudeau at another time. I know he tried to talk to Trump at the meetings, and Trudeau could play actually an interesting role between the Europeans, and as Dad did. Pierre Trudeau played a very interesting role when European leaders didn't know what to make of Ronald Reagan, and Pierre Trudeau was the sort of North American interlocker, and Justin does the same with Trump. I think he could play a good role here. And when no one was talking to Trump at the Brussels NATO meeting, Trudeau should have gone up to him and said, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like it is what it is." And Trudeau should have done that actually. Because we need to get along with Trump as long as he's the president. We know how long that's for, but yeah, we need to get along with him. So Trudeau should have done that. Trudeau needs to play that role. He's a North American. He understands U.S. politics. He needs to play that role. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit. Let's go on to the Star headline. Let's go to. I thought this headline in the Star was pathetic. Andrew who? Okay. That apes a 41-year-old famous Toronto Star headline, Joe Who, right? Talking about Joe Clark's a bizarre victory in the 1976 Conservative Convention that I watched as a kid. And Clark definitely came out of nowhere. No one knew who he was. And he beat Mulroney, Flora MacDonald, a bunch of other conservative heavyweights. Andrew Scheer, this guy, was the Speaker of the House of Commons. Okay, the youngest ever. He wasn't an unknown quantity. When you're Speaker of the House of Commons, that's an important job. And I thought, no, he's not Andrew Who. He's the Speaker of the House of Commons. And I thought the Star headline was kind of pathetic. The headline should have been former Speaker of the House of Commons wins the Conservative leadership. That's kind of, that's aping a 41-year-old headline that became very famous. Everyone knows anyone who lives in Canada knows the Joe Who headline. Joe Who followed Joe Clark for all of his political career. And I just thought, yeah, that's kind of sad. So that's bad journalism. And I don't know where it's going to happen to Andrew Scheer. I assumed he could probably win because he was a compromise candidate like Joe Clark. And okay, we don't know where Andrew Scheer is. He's a social conservative. I don't think he's that caught up in social conservatism. He already said he wasn't going to turn the clock on these issues, gay rights, abortion, all that. So, but he will give Trudeau a run for his money because he seems like a pretty sunny guy. And Trudeau, that was all, sunny ways was all a game. So we know that now, right? So, anyways, I'm rambling. Yeah, this just bothered me. Like, this is cheap journalism and.
Sell some papers.
And ape a 41-year-old headline that gave you a lot of fame because everyone knows Joe Who, and that was the Toronto Star in February of 76. So Andrew Scheer is not Joe Clark. Andrew Scheer was the former Speaker of the House of Commons, okay? He didn't come out of nowhere, and he was always a contender, whereas Clark definitely did come out of nowhere. So on that note, sunny ways, my friend. Going to Mar-a-Lago. Don't know about Jared Kushner. Who's Jared Kushner? My son-in-law. Don't know who he is. He might be my son-in-law. I don't know him. Back channels to the Russians. I don't know. I just like the back channels at Mar-a-Lago. So, whatever. We don't know where it's going to go. I kind of wish I didn't have this job. But thinking about Sicily and The Godfather, maybe that's a good place for me to live. And I don't. Bye.